The saga continues at OpenAI. OpenAI has formally announced that Sam Altman is returning as CEO of the company. That deal appears to be done. That was previously announced, but now they have, signed on the dotted line to bring Altman back. And they've also outlined some other important personnel updates. Mira Murati is returning as CTO. And the board now consists of Bret Taylor, who was previously the co-CEO at Salesforce, Larry Summers, a former Treasury secretary, and Adam DeAngelo, who is the CEO of Quora and was a previous member of the board that tried to oust Altman. Now, in a note that was published on the company's website, Altman shared some words about his return. He mentioned that he loves and respects Ilya Sutskever, who led the coup against him, and harbors no ill will towards him. He mentioned that while Ilya no longer serves on the board, Altman and the company are discussing how, if at all, he can continue his work at OpenAI. Now, Altman did not mention why he was fired, but he did say that the company has three immediate priorities. The first is advancing our research plan and further investing in our full stack safety efforts. The second is continuing to improve and deploy our products and serve our customers. And the third is building out a board of diverse perspectives, improving our governance structure, and overseeing an independent review of recent events. Also notable, OpenAI is adding Microsoft to its board in what they're calling a non-voting observer seat, according to The Verge. So far, Microsoft has not said who will fill the seat. In an interview with The Verge, Altman repeatedly avoided answering questions about why exactly he was fired. He said, quote, "The board is going to do an independent review here. I very much welcome that. I don't have much else to say now, but I'm looking forward to learning more." He also said he doesn't feel ready to talk yet about what he categorized as misunderstandings between him and the board that fired him. And last but certainly not least, when he was asked about Q-Star, which is OpenAI's rumored breakthrough in AI reasoning, which we covered heavily last week, he said, quote, "No particular comment on that unfortunate leak." Paul, a lot going on here. First up, where do we stand now at OpenAI? What's going to remain the same? What's going to be different moving forward? What do you predict we're going to be seeing
Well, if
next?
anyone else is confused, like join the club. I swear, like I had to go back and look at the last two episodes of the podcast and be like, did we talk about this already? And then it's like, oh wait, no, this is legitimately like last Wednesday. They officially put it up on their blog and they had statements from Altman. It's like, oh, man, I feel like we're just living in the twilight zone right now. Just kind of this repeating loop. So I think first thing that jumped out to me is Altman acknowledging Q Star is a thing. So that was obviously, I think, an episode or two ago we talked about that had come out. I think it was in the information maybe that had that
Yeah.
story. So that is a thing. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, go back and listen to that. We went pretty deep on Q Star and some theories of what that could actually be. So you can check that out. The board, I think what's relevant here again, like this is a lot of just inside baseball. I don't think the average marketer, business leader thinks about the makeup of boards of tech companies they work with very often. But I think in this case, it's really relevant to just have like a baseline understanding of it. So first, obviously, it needs more diversity. Having three men leading this is not where this is going to end. I believe I saw their goal was nine. I think the board is going to have nine people on it. So they obviously need to focus on diversity on the board. The one addition so far that I found most intriguing is the addition of Larry Summers that you had mentioned. So he was the Secretary of the Treasury under Clinton from 99 to 2001. He was the Director of National Economic Council 2009, 2010 under Obama. And then he also served as the president of Harvard University from 2001 to 2006. I went back and kind of looked at some of his previous conversations and interviews around AI. Um, he gave one last week to Bloomberg. I believe he's a contributor for Bloomberg. And he said that OpenAI needs to, quote, needs to be a corporation with a conscience. We need to be always thinking about the multiple stakeholders in the development of this technology. And then he went on to cite one of his peers, in terms of what he means by conscience. He said is the knowledge that someone is watching. Kind of a weird definition of conscience, but
Okay.
so he's going to push for I don't know. I honestly I'm not even sure what that means within the current structure. He does reference in that interview the nonprofit structure overseeing the for-profit structure. So I'm not sure which corporation within that structure is functioning with the conscience, but it's what he said. He also said that OpenAI has to be prepared to cooperate with key government officials on regulatory issues, on national security issues, and on development of technology issues. Um, he also, I went back and looked at something he put up April 7th of this year. So that was just 3 weeks after GPT-4 came out. So, a few months after ChatGPT overall, but just shortly after GPT-4 was introduced. And in an interview on Bloomberg TV, he said, more and more, I think ChatGPT is coming for the cognitive class. It's going to replace what doctors do, hearing symptoms and making diagnoses, before it changes what nurses do, helping patients get up and handle themselves in the hospital.
Mm.
It's a great opportunity to level a lot of playing fields. So the reason I think that this is significant is, I'd have to look up what episode it was, but we've had a number of episodes where we talked about my belief that AI is going to dramatically affect knowledge work. I do think it's going to be very disruptive in the near term. I think over time there's a chance it levels out and more jobs are created, but through AI. But I do believe that in the next few years we're going to see some significant disruption to knowledge work. So the idea that a leading economist is now on the board of one of the most influential AI companies, I think matters to all of us. I think we need more economists thinking deeply about the impact of AI and being more proactive in preparing for it. I don't think OpenAI has been that to date. And I haven't seen it from Google. I haven't seen it from any of these companies. Microsoft, we'll talk a little bit about later on. Salesforce has done some studies, but to date, I think it's mostly been research. And there's been a few reports released from key economists, but I've yet to see one that I feel confidently projects out what the next few years looks like. And so if a leading economist is now on the board at OpenAI, my hope is that OpenAI is then more proactive in addressing the potential impact on knowledge work.
Mm.
So that was something that jumped out to me. And then the last, you addressed what happens to Ilya. So again, if you've been following along, you've heard that name a lot. If you haven't, he is one of the co-founders of OpenAI. He appears to have either led or certainly gone along with the coup to get Sam Altman out because of his concerns around safety, it appears. He is now off the board. He may stay with OpenAI. It was a very weird quote from Sam that he loves them and
Mm.
respects them, but that certainly doesn't sound very encouraging. That there's going to be a future at OpenAI. We'll see. A couple of logical things to consider here is again Dario Amodei, who we've talked about numerous times, the CEO of Anthropic. He left OpenAI in 2021 due to safety concerns, which seemed to be very aligned with what Ilya was talking about here. Um, Took 10% of the OpenAI team with him in 2021. So, it's like, well, does Ilya go work with Anthropic and pursue the safety mission? The one that's kind of like just out there. And again, I'm just kind of like throwing out stuff to think about. Jeff Hinton, Ilya was a Jeff Hinton disciple. So
Mm.
Ilya came from, if you read, there's a story we're going to talk about in a minute from the New York Times. Jeff Hinton led a team that made a breakthrough in computer vision back in 2011, 2012. Ilya was on that team. And then Jeff, Ilya, and one other PhD student went to work for Google when Jeff Hinton sold his company to Google in 2012 for 44 million. So Ilya and Jeff Hinton are very tight and obviously came up together. So Jeff left Google because of his concerns around safety. So I don't know. There's just, again, like we've talked in the last couple episodes about how interconnected all of these people are. And
Mm.
so if for some reason Ilya, doesn't find a future at OpenAI and they can't see past what happened, just a couple of places where I think that, it makes sense that he's going to be having some conversations and just there's a collection of people who are very focused on AI safety moving forward, and they tend to find each other, I guess is what I'm saying.
How significant is Microsoft's increased involvement on this board? It seems like this timing for the whole coup and chaos at OpenAI could not have come at a worse time for them with their rollout of Copilot and expanding this partnership. Are they trying to play a bigger role here to be the adult in the room?
I don't think there was any way they weren't going to have some involvement on the board after everything that happened. Somehow, to Satya's credit, Microsoft's credit overall, how they came through this with almost no negative PR at all.
Mhm.
Like, they make this $10 billion bet on a company that, goes crazy for 72 hours, and nobody ever really questioned Microsoft. I think they were proactive. They stepped out and said, we're supporting Sam no matter what. And I don't know. Microsoft played it extremely well. I don't, like I said, I don't remember seeing a single negative headline about Microsoft. So I think that this is a major investment for them. Yes, it's critical to what they're doing. And I don't think there was any chance they were not going to have a greater involvement and greater transparency into what was happening. I think the fact that Satya got the call, like, what, 20 minutes before Altman got fired,
Mm.
that can't happen. And honestly, it's just bad business overall. But in an environment like this, you can't have that. You can't have those kinds of surprises. So yeah, I mean, I'd have been more surprised if Microsoft didn't have some involvement in the board.